Excellency, the Ambassador of Japan, Mr. Masahiro Omura, the JICA representative, Mrs. Yukari Ono, esteemed representatives of JICA Fiji office and NDMO, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Naisambulu Vinaka, and a very good afternoon. Konnichiwa, Excellency.
Konnichiwa.
I take this opportunity to welcome you all at the National Disaster Management Warehouse this afternoon. Excellency, again, our diplomatic relations date back to the 70s, and Japan has proven to be a very good and reliable friend of Fiji, and we have cooperated on so many fronts, regionally, on the multilateral fronts, and on a number of pressing global issues. And you have responded timely and generously during our hour of need. We are undoubtedly living in extraordinary times with the dark clouds of COVID-19 hovering over us, and which requires us to cooperate and work together. And the devastation again upon us as a result of TC Harold has stretched our meager resources to the limit, and therefore we are grateful for the support of our development partners and the donor community. I truly acknowledge the support provided so far by the government of Japan and JICA throughout the years. Fiji shares a special bond with Japan in the field of disaster risk management. And this afternoon, as we gather for the handing over of relief supplies worth over $72,295 Fijian, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the government of Japan for their kind donation, as this would indeed strengthen government's relief efforts for Fijian communities severely affected by TC Harold. Excellency, I did mention about this close collaboration between Fiji and Japan. Let me again acknowledge all the previous assistances. I know that Japan has been helping us during previous disasters, and of course in terms of our capability development as well. We acknowledge the receipt of equipment, heavy equipment that has helped us not only during in our development aspirations, but of course most importantly when we are hit with disasters as such. I recall the meeting that I attended in Geneva way back in 2013, I believe, where I was so convinced with the presentation in one of the side events organized by JICA and the Japanese government. And for us, for me particularly, that led in influencing the Fiji government to invest in disaster risk reduction. And Japan, I would say, is a leader and a champion in disaster risk reduction. And since then, I've always argued with government that it is not an expense, but it is an investment. And for every dollar that we invest in disaster risk reduction, we save about $7 eventually for government. And since then, government did provide allocation to the ministry for, although it may be small in terms, or if we compare to what the level of investment that Japan has, given the size of our economy. But of course, when we look at the returns, it has really brought about a lot of benefit to our Fiji. And for me, I've always talked about shifting from a culture of reaction to a culture of prevention. And it was through the influence of the Japanese government during that side event that led us into changing policies so that we can also not only look specifically at managing disasters, but investing in risk reduction as well. On that, let me acknowledge again your government's contribution in the formulation of our disaster risk reduction policy. And I'm back in the ministry now, and I've highlighted when I was initially interviewed, when I got back into the ministry. This is one of the documents that I would like to again champion in the next few years, because we are living in extraordinary times. These catastrophic events are what we call the new norms, but for us to minimize the implications, particularly in terms of economic losses and social implications as well, we need to invest heavily into disaster risk reduction. And for that, I again look forward to further discussions and partnership in the implementation of the disaster risk reduction policy. And I reminded my good friend, Minister Kono, when we were both ministers for disasters before we became ministers for foreign affairs, that we need to again partnership, strengthen the partnership on this. Again, Excellency, thank you for all this assistance. Be assured that this will be pushed immediately to the areas, particularly the areas that were badly affected. And of course, we look forward to providing some feedbacks as well to your office once it reaches the communities. As alluded to by the Director, we have vessels leaving tonight, and of course we have plans to roll out further assistance in terms of our recovery and long-term rehabilitation, and of course we will ensure that these does get to the communities without delay. So, Excellency, again, let me conclude by saying that the handover of relief items today again represents another milestone in our bilateral relations, and I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Fiji government to express our gratitude on behalf of the Honorable Prime Minister and the people of Fiji. And I'm confident that the relationship between our two countries will continue to grow as we work on deepening our ties. Pinakabaleo and arigato gomae. Thank you, Excellency.
Honorable Inia Seruiratu, Minister for Defense, National Security and Policing, Disaster Management, Rural and Maritime Development, Ms. Yukari Ono, Resident Representative JICA Fiji Office, and Honorable Vice Minister, Deputy Minister, Fiji government officials, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm pleased to be here to represent the government and people of Japan. This year has been challenging and difficult, and I'd like to convey our deepest sympathies to the people of Fiji for the devastation caused by Tropical Cyclone Harold. Today, we will hand over emergency relief supplies such as tents, water tanks, and generators that were procured through Japan International Cooperation Agency, or JICA. Japan has provided emergency relief assistance to Fiji since 1980 from a humanitarian point of view and in light of our strong friendship between Japan and Fiji. It is our hope that these items will support the people and communities in getting back to some form of normalcy and complement the hard work that is carried out by the government and the support from other development partners. Last year, our two governments concluded the signing of exchange of notes, and the subsequent loan agreement was signed earlier this year for a standby loan facility for a sum of $50 million. The aim of this facility is to support the government of Fiji with its restoration efforts following a severe natural disaster. I am pleased to inform you that after positive discussions between the Ministry of Economy and JICA, approximately 45.7 million Fiji dollars is expected to be disbursed within this month. And in March, Japan and Fiji formalized a grant aid for disaster risk reduction worth approximately 17 million Fiji dollars for equipment such as tsunami warning early warning system, dredger vessel, and ice plants. This grant aid was signed in March, but it was not reported well because considering the coronavirus, we signed in each office. Mr. Karan signed in his office, and I signed in the embassy, and we exchanged letters. And that is okay for as far as legal value is concerned, but it was not well reported. So I take this opportunity to announce again this granted. Apart from the recovery efforts that the government of Fiji is undertaking following the aftermath of TC Harold, like many countries across the world, Fiji is also battling COVID-19. The government of Japan has already provided support worth $2 million through UNICEF to countries in the Pacific, including Fiji, and $120,000 through IFRC to Fiji. In addition, bilateral grant for capacity building of health and medical sector is being considered in Tokyo. This grant will respond to medium-term needs of Fiji to build the capacity of their health and medical services through the procurement of necessary equipment. Amidst these challenging times, Japan is committed to continuing our support to the government and people of Fiji. I sincerely hope the items handed over today will greatly support Fiji government's recovery efforts and, most importantly, help the people that are affected. I conclude with confidence that this handing over ceremony will further strengthen friendship between the peoples and governments of Japan and Fiji. Pinaka Pakarep.
Thank you.